Chapter 1, Best Part of My Life. My name is James. I am 68 years old. I live in the United States. Life has become slow now. My children are busy in their own world. My wife is no longer with me. Some mornings I feel lonely and I sit in silence, but I do not complain. This is what life is. We all grow old. We all lose people. We all wait for calls that may never come. Still, when I think about my life, I do not only see pain. I also see love. I also see joy. I see moments that still bring a smile to my face even now. And I say to myself, James, you were blessed. You lived something special. I want to share that story with you. Not the story of money or work, but the story of the heart, the story of the best part of my life. When I was 24 years old, I was in college. I was young, full of dreams and full of hope. My parents always asked me about my day. Every evening they sat with me and I told them everything. They listened, they cared, and I felt safe. I wish I could go back to those evenings because that was true happiness. And then there was Clara. The name itself still makes my heart soft. She was my junior in college. She was younger than me, but she had something special. Her smile could make the world brighter. I saw her many times, but I did not have the courage to speak. My heart would beat fast, and I would stop myself. I would think, James, you cannot do it today, maybe tomorrow. Then one afternoon, everything changed. Clara was standing alone, and a group of boys started troubling her. I watched for a moment, then my heart pushed me forward. My voice shook, but I told them to leave her alone. They walked away and Clara looked at me. That look was different. It was the beginning of something that would stay with me forever. From that day, Clara and I started talking. First small words, then longer conversations. Slowly, she became a part of my life. She called me her best friend. But inside me, she was more, much more. I still remember the first time she laughed at one of my silly jokes. That laugh stayed in my ears for days. I remember the first time she said, "Thank you, James." It was simple, but it felt like music. For me, Clara was not just a girl. She was a feeling. She was the reason I looked forward to every morning. I never told her at that time. I only carried the words in my heart. Clara, you are the best part of my life. And this is how my story begins. A story of a young man and his first love. A story of pain and joy. Of losing and finding. Of waiting and hoping. I am James, and I am ready to tell you everything. Chapter 2, A Smile That Changed Everything. I was young, only 24 when Clara entered my life. After that afternoon, when I stood for her against those boys, something changed. She started greeting me when she saw me. Sometimes just a small, "Hello, James." But even that was enough to keep me smiling the whole day. One day, she came to me in the library. Her arms were full of books. A few fell to the floor. I quickly bent down and helped her. She looked at me and said, "Thank you." Her voice was soft, but it touched my heart. I wanted to say something more, but I only smiled. She laughed and said, "You are quiet, James. Too quiet." My lips wanted to answer, but only my heart spoke inside me. Clara, if you knew how much I want to talk to you, you would not call me quiet. We started to talk more often. At first, it was small things. She would ask, "Did you finish your class?" Or "How was your test?" But for me, every word from her mouth was precious. I used to go home and remember her exact sentences. I would think about them again and again, as if they were secrets I had to keep safe. Slowly, our talks grew longer. Sometimes we sat on a bench, and she told me about her family. She said, "My father is in the army. He is very strict, but he loves me. My mother is kind. She always worries about me." I listened like a child listening to a story. Then she asked me, "What about your parents?" I smiled and said, "They ask me about my day every evening. They are my safe place." Clara looked at me and said, "You are lucky, James." My eyes filled with warmth. I thought, yes, I am lucky to be sitting here with you. Sometimes she laughed at small jokes I made. I remember one day I said, "You study so much, Clara. Soon you will be the teacher, not the student." She laughed loudly and touched my shoulder lightly. That touch stayed in my heart for weeks. I went home that night and whispered to myself, James, this girl is the reason your heart is alive. But deep inside, I was afraid. She called me her best friend, and I feared she would never see me as more. I told myself again and again, don't hope too much. She may like someone else. Still, my heart refused to listen. My heart said, she is yours, James. One day she will see it. One evening I gathered courage. I asked her softly, Clara, do you have a boyfriend? She looked surprised. Then she laughed and said, no. Why do you ask? My hands were shaking, but I smiled and said, just wanted to know. My heart was jumping with joy. A few days later, I asked another question. Clara, do you like someone? She looked at me, smiled, and said, no, James, no one. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed and said to myself again and again, Char has no one. That means I can try. That means my love has a chance. I began to dream. I imagined a future where I could take care of her, protect her, and make her smile forever. I whispered to myself, James, give her all the love you have. One day, she will understand. Then came the news that her birthday was near. My friends were talking about it, and I thought, this is my chance. This is the day I will tell her I made a plan. I booked a hotel hall with the help of my friends. I decorated it with balloons and lights. I saved every coin from my cafe job. I counted my money again and again until it was exactly $96. I spent all of it. I bought a big cake. I even bought a ring. My heart whispered, Clara will know on her birthday. She will finally know how much you love her. My friend Richard told Clara about the birthday party. She asked him, can I bring some of my friends too? Richard said, yes. She smiled and said she would come. Later that day, Clara told me, James, my birthday is on the 11th of August. Be there at 10 p.m., don't be late. I smiled and said, I will be there. But I did not know Richard had told her 8 p.m. I was confused, but I thought it doesn't matter. I will be there early anyway. The days before her birthday, I could not rest. My heart was full of excitement and fear. I walked around my small room and whispered to myself, James, this is it. Don't be afraid. You will show her your heart. I looked at the ring every night. I held it in my palm and thought, Clara, this is not just gold. This is my life. This is my promise to love you forever. I could already see her face when I would kneel and ask her to be mine. I could hear her soft voice saying, yes, James. That dream filled my chest with fire and hope. I did not know what was waiting for me on that night. I did not know my heart was walking toward the sharpest pain it had ever felt. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, English Through Story. Chapter 3, The Birthday Surprise. The days before Clara's birthday felt endless. I could not sleep. I could not eat. My heart was full of one thought. James, this is your chance. This is the day you will tell her. On the morning of the 11th of August, I woke up with trembling hands. I looked at the small box where the ring was hidden. I held it and whispered, Clara, tonight I will show you what you mean to me. My chest was tight with hope and fear. I went to the hotel early. My friends helped me decorate. Balloons, lights, a big cake in the center. It was not perfect, but it was full of my love. I looked at it and thought, this is more than a party. This is my heart standing in front of her. I reached even before 8. My plan was simple. When Clara walked in, I would wait a little, then come forward. I would kneel with a ring and say the words that lived inside me for so long. But then something happened that I was not ready for. At exactly 8 p.m., Clara entered. She was smiling and her eyes were bright. My heart jumped, but she was not alone. She had friends with her. Among them was one boy. His name was David. I stood back, hidden from her sight. I thought maybe just a friend. Do not worry, James. But my hope broke in the next moment. Clara turned to everyone and said, this is David. He is my boyfriend. We have been together for 3 years. We are planning to marry. Her words stabbed me like a knife. 3 years. All the time I dreamed. All the time I hoped she already belonged to someone else. I froze. My hand went to the pocket where the ring was. I wanted to throw it away. I wanted to cry out loud, but I stayed quiet. My eyes burned when I saw her lean close to David, then in front of everyone. They kissed. That moment crushed me. My body felt heavy. My heart whispered, "James, it is over. Everything you dreamed is broken." I stood there with the ring still in my hand. It was not just gold. It was my promise, my love, my everything. And now it meant nothing. I wanted to scream. Ciel, it was me. I did this for you. I love you. But my voice died inside me. I turned and walked away. My friends called me, but I could not hear them. My feet carried me outside into the night. Tears rolled down my face. I whispered to myself, "James, you are a fool. You thought love was waiting for you, but it was never yours." Later that night, my friend Richard came to me. He said, "James, Clara does not know. She thinks it was only a party. She does not know you planned it." I closed my eyes and said, "It does not matter anymore." But inside me, I was screaming. The next day, Clara came to meet me. She looked serious. She said, "James, I heard what you did. I heard the party was your plan. Why didn't you tell me?" My lips trembled, but I forced a smile. I said, "It's fine, Clara. Forget it." She looked at me and whispered, "I am sorry." I shook my head. "Don't be sorry. Be happy. That's what matters." But I could not stop myself from adding, "Clara, be careful. David is not what he seems." She frowned. "What do you mean?" I looked at her and said softly, "You will understand one day." I walked away before my tears showed again. My heart said, "James, this is the end. She belongs to someone else. Accept it." But deep inside, another voice whispered, "No, this is not over. The truth will come out." And the truth came sooner than I thought. Just a week later, Clara saw David with another girl, not just talking, not just smiling. She saw him with his arms around her. Her world broke in a moment. She cried like her soul was tearing apart. That evening, I found her sitting on a bench, her face wet with tears. I sat beside her and gave her my scarf. She looked at me and asked, "Why are you so kind to me, James?" My throat closed. I wanted to say, "Because you are my life," but I only said, "Because you deserve better." She cried harder and leaned on my shoulder. I felt her pain like it was mine. She whispered, "I thought he loved me. I thought he was my future." I held her hand and said, "Some people only know how to hurt, but not everyone is like that. One day you will see." That night when I went home, I could still feel her tears on my shirt. I looked at the ring again and whispered, "Not today, James, but maybe one day." Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. English Through Story. Chapter 4, Tears on the Park Bench. The days after David's betrayal were hard for Clara. She tried to act strong, but her eyes told the truth. I often found her sitting in silence. Sometimes she looked at the ground, sometimes at the sky, but her thoughts were far away. I wanted to take her pain away, but I could only stay beside her. One evening, she said, "James, I feel so foolish. I gave him 3 years of my life, and he destroyed it in one moment." I looked at her and said softly, "Clara, being faithful is not foolish. Believing in love is not foolish. The only foolish ones are the people who don't value it." She wiped her tears and whispered, "Then why does it hurt so much?" My voice broke as I said, "Because your heart was real." I became her shoulder to cry on. She called me more often. She said, "Can you walk with me for a while? I don't want to be alone." And I always said, "Yes, Clara, I am here." I listened to her talk about her pain. I listened to her say the same questions again and again. Why did he do this? Was I not enough? I never gave her empty answers. I only told her, "You are more than enough." He was never the right man. One night when her eyes were red from crying, she looked at me and asked, "James, do you ever feel lonely?" I smiled sadly and said, "Every night. But loneliness is lighter when you have someone to talk to." She nodded and whispered, "Thank you for being here." Slowly, her tears began to turn into laughter again. Sometimes she laughed at my silly jokes. Sometimes she teased me for being too quiet. One day she said, "James, you are strange. You sit with me in silence, and still I feel better." I looked at her and said, "Sometimes silence speaks louder than words." She smiled and shook her head. "You always say things that make me think." Weeks passed, and we started doing small things together. We went to watch a movie. She whispered during the film, "James, this is the first time in weeks I have smiled without forcing it." My heart almost broke with joy. Another time we ate at a small cafe, and she laughed when I spilled tea on myself. She said, "See, even you make mistakes." I answered, "Yes, but I will never make the mistake of letting you feel alone." She grew quiet after that and looked at me with soft eyes. I realized something was changing. She was beginning to see me not only as a friend, but as someone who truly cared. I felt it in the way she spoke to me, the way her voice softened when she said my name. One evening, as we sat on a bench, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. She said, "James, can I ask you something?" My heart raced. "Of course, Clara," I said. She took a deep breath and asked, "Do you still love me?" The world stopped for me in that moment. I had dreamed of these words for years. My throat closed, my eyes filled with water. I whispered, "Yes, Clara, I always did. I always will." She covered her face with her hands and cried. I reached for her hand, and she held it tightly. She whispered, "I was blind. I was searching for love in the wrong place. All this time it was right in front of me. I could not speak. My heart was too full." She leaned against me and said, "Promise me, James, you will never leave." I placed my hand over hers and said, "As long as I breathe, Clara, you will never be alone." She hugged me, and I felt the world disappear. That hug was not just comfort. It was love, real and pure. For the first time, I felt the weight of my pain lift. I held her close and whispered, "Clara, this is the best moment of my life." From that night, something new began. We were no longer just friends. We were two souls healing together. We walked hand in hand, and every step felt like a promise. She laughed more. I smiled more. And deep inside, I knew my life had found its meaning again. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel, English Through Story. Chapter 5, Dreams That Could Not Stay. After that night, when Clara asked me if I still love her, my life felt new. It was as if the heavy weight on my chest had been lifted. I walked lighter. I smiled more. Every time Clara held my hand, I felt a warmth I could not explain. I told myself, "James, this is what love is meant to feel like." We started spending more time together. Clara would wait for me after her classes. Sometimes she teased me, "James, you walk too slow." I would laugh and say, "I am just walking slow, so I can spend more time beside you." She would roll her eyes and smile, but I could see her cheeks turn red. One weekend, we went to see a movie. Halfway through the film, she leaned toward me and whispered, "James, I never thought I could laugh again, but you make me laugh." My throat tightened. I whispered back, "That's all I want, Clara, to see you smile." Another time we ate at a small cafe. I remember her biting into a piece of cake and saying, "You know, James, I feel safe with you." I don't have to pretend my eyes grew wet, but I forced a smile and said, "Then let me be that safe place for the rest of your life." She looked at me quietly, and in her silence, I heard her answer. We started talking about the future. One evening, Clara said, "Do you ever think about marriage, James?" My heart raced. I looked at her and said, "Every day, Clara. And in every thought it's you I see." She pressed my hand and whispered, "Maybe one day it will be real." I began to dream openly now. I would sit alone and whisper, "James, you will marry her. You will protect her. You will give her all the love you carry." I worked extra hours at the cafe, saving money. I wanted to give her everything, even though she never asked. I even bought her flowers with the last coins in my pocket one evening. When I gave them to her, she laughed and said, "James, why waste your money on me?" I smiled and said, "Because you are worth more than all the money I will ever earn." She grew quiet and held the flowers close to her chest. But life does not always move the way we dream. One evening, Clara's voice was heavy. She said, "James, I need to tell you something important." My heart skipped. I feared her words. She looked down and whispered, "My father has been transferred. He is in the army. In a few weeks, my whole family is leaving the United States." Her words hit me like a storm. I froze. "Leaving?" I whispered. She nodded with tears in her eyes. "Yes, James. We are going to Europe. I don't know if I will ever come back." I tried to stay strong, but my heart was breaking. I said, "Clara, we can write letters. We can find a way." She shook her head. "You know how hard it will be. We don't even have phones. My father will never allow it." "James, I don't want to lose you, but I don't see how we can stop this." I held her hand tightly. "Clara, listen to me. Even if the world takes you far, my love will not move. My heart will stay with you." She cried and whispered, "And my heart will stay with you, too." The days after that felt like borrowed time. We tried to make every moment count. We went to see movies. We walked together. We laughed even when our eyes were wet. She once said, "James, I don't want to go, but I have no choice." I hugged her and whispered, "Then let this love stay alive inside us, even if the world separates us." On the morning she was leaving, I went to the station. She stood with her family holding her bag. Our eyes met, and everything around me disappeared. She waved softly, her face wet with tears. I wanted to run, to pull her back, to beg her to stay, but all I could do was whisper goodbye. "Clara, I will never forget you." As the train moved, she pressed her hand to the window. I pressed mine against the air, knowing she was doing the same. And then she was gone. That night, I wrote in my diary, "I lost my love today, but I will carry her in my heart forever." Chapter 6. Some faces never change. After Clara left, life felt empty. I walked through my days, but my heart was not there. I worked, I studied, I laughed with friends, but inside me was silence. Every night, I opened my diary and wrote her name. Every morning, I woke with the same thought: "James, she is gone." But life doesn't stop for one broken heart. Years passed. My parents grew older, and I had to take care of them. After some time, I met Julia. She was kind, and she brought light into my quiet life. I told myself, "James, you must move on. You cannot live forever in memories." Julia and I married. We had 3 children. They filled the house with noise and laughter. I worked hard to give them a good life. Many evenings I sat with Julia and she would ask, "Are you happy, James?" I always answered, "Yes, I am happy," and in many ways I was. But a small part of me deep inside still whispered another name: Clara. I never told Julia how strong my first love had been. It was not because I wanted to hide something. It was because I did not want to hurt her. She gave me a family. She gave me years of love. But sometimes late at night when she was asleep, I sat alone and thought about a girl who once promised, "My heart will stay with you." Life moved on quickly. My children grew up. They made their own families. Julia grew weaker with age. I stayed beside her until the day she left this world. That day I whispered to her, "Thank you for everything. You gave me a life when I thought mine was finished." My tears fell, and I kissed her hand one last time. After Julia, the house felt cold again. My children lived far away. They visited sometimes, but not enough to fill the silence. I spent many mornings sitting alone, thinking of all the years that had passed. And then one afternoon, something happened I never imagined. I went to the park to sit quietly. As I looked around, I saw a woman walking slowly. Her hair was gray, her steps careful, but her face, something about her face made my heart jump. My chest whispered, "James, could it be?" I stared. She looked older, but her eyes had not changed. They were the same eyes I once dreamed about every night. I froze. My hands shook. I wanted to call her name, but my voice was gone. For days, I kept going back to the park. For days, I only watched her from a distance. My heart said, "It is Clara. It must be her." But my courage failed me. One afternoon, as I fed the birds, I felt someone stop near me. I looked up. She was standing there. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment time stopped. Then she said softly, "Are you James?" Tears filled my eyes instantly. My lips trembled. I whispered, "Are you Clara?" She covered her mouth and began to cry. I could not stop myself. I stood up and held her. After 40 years, we were in each other's arms again. My heart was racing like it did when I was 24. She whispered through her tears, "I have been searching for you for 6 months. I have been looking in this country, and now I finally found you." I asked, my voice shaking, "Clara, what happened? Tell me." She wiped her face and said, "I'm married after we left. My husband passed away. I was alone for many years. I thought of you often, James. I wanted to know if you still remembered me." I held her hand tightly and said, "Remember you, Clara? I never forgot you. Not one day." She cried again and whispered, "Neither did I." That moment felt like a gift from life. Two old hearts carrying years of love, finding each other again. I thought to myself, James, some faces never change. Some loves never die. Like, subscribe, and share. Click the hype button to reach more people. Chapter 7, Love at 68. After that day in the park, Clara and I could not stay away from each other. It felt as if time had waited for us. We met again and again, and every meeting filled my heart with peace. She said, "James, I thought you would not recognize me." I laughed softly and answered, "Clara, I would know your face even with my eyes closed." She smiled and held my hand, and I felt young again. We started doing small things together, just like years ago. One afternoon, we went to watch a movie. As the screen played, she leaned close and whispered, "James, do you realize we're laughing like children again?" I nodded and whispered back, "Yes, and I don't want this feeling to ever end." Another time we went to eat. She laughed when I dropped a piece of bread, and I laughed, too. She said, "After so many years, you are still the same James." I looked into her eyes and replied, "And you are still the Clara who makes me forget the world." Slowly we spoke about the years we had lost. Clara said with tears in her eyes, "I used to imagine you. I used to think, is James married? Is he happy? Does he ever remember me?" My throat tightened as I said, "I thought of you every single day. Even when life pulled me forward, my heart stayed behind with you." She held my hand tighter and whispered, "Then maybe we were never truly apart." The more time we spent, the clearer it became. Our love had not died. It had only waited. One evening she said, "James, we are old now, but when I sit with you, I feel like I am 20 again." I placed my hand on hers and said, "Clara, love does not count years. It only counts the heartbeats we share." We began to talk about what was next. She asked me softly, "Do you believe we can still have a future, James?" My eyes filled with water as I replied, "Clara, you are my future. Whether we have days or years left, I want to spend them with you." Her tears fell and she whispered, "I was afraid to come back. Afraid you would have forgotten me. But now I see that you are the same James who once promised to never let me feel alone." I answered, "And I am ready to keep that promise until my last breath." That night as we sat together in silence, she suddenly turned to me and said, "James, let's not waste any more time. We waited too long already." I looked at her, not sure if I heard right. She continued, "Let's get married. Not later, not someday." Now my hands trembled. My heart felt like it would burst. I whispered, "Clara, are you sure?" She smiled through tears and said, "I lost you once. I will not lose you again. Yes, I am sure." I pulled her close and whispered in her ear, "Clara, you just gave me back the life I thought I lost forever." She held my face and said, "And you gave me hope again." We sat there like two young souls, but with 68 years behind us. The world around us had changed, but our love had not. That evening we made the decision. After decades of waiting, after years of distance, after broken hearts and lost time, we would finally stand together as husband and wife. I thought to myself, true love never dies. It only waits for the right moment. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. English Through Story. Chapter 8. A Promise Kept at Last. The night we decided to marry, I could not sleep. I lay on my bed with tears in my eyes, not from sadness, but from joy. I whispered myself, James, after all these years, life has given you Clara again. Don't waste this chance. Hold her close and never let go. The next morning, Clara called me. Her voice was soft but strong. She said, James, I have lived through loss. I have cried alone for years, but now I don't want a single day without you. I replied, Clara, you're not alone anymore. We will walk together until the end. We began to prepare in our own simple way. There were no big plans, no decorations, no crowd. We didn't need them. What we needed was only each other. One evening, she held my hand and whispered, Do you know what makes me happy, James? It's not the wedding dress or the ceremony. It's knowing that after all this time, I finally get to call you my husband. My throat closed with emotion. I said, Chara, I waited a lifetime for these words, and I will honor them with every breath I have left. The days before the wedding were filled with long talks. We spoke about our past, about the pain we both carried. She said, James, do you know how many nights I cried thinking of you? I would imagine your face, your smile, your voice. I wanted to believe you still remembered me. I looked at her and said, I never forgot. Even when I was surrounded by people, I felt a hole inside me. That space was only for you. She cried and pressed her head against my chest, and I held her close, whispering, We are together now. That's all that matters. On the day of our wedding, I looked at Clara and felt my heart beating like it did when I was young. She walked slowly toward me. Her face carried years of life, but her eyes were the same eyes that once made me lose my words. She stood before me and whispered, James, I can't believe this is real. I smiled with tears and said, It is real, and it is forever. We exchanged our vows in the simplest way. She said, I promise to stay with you, James, not just until the end of our lives, but until the end of time in my heart. My eyes filled with water as I answered, Clara, I promise you the same. I waited for you once. I would wait again if I had to, but now I don't have to wait anymore. When I placed the ring on her finger, my hand shook. It was not just metal. It was the answer to every prayer I had whispered in silence. Clara looked at me and said, This is the ring you once wanted to give me. I feel like you are completing a circle we left open so long ago. I nodded and whispered, Yes, Clara, tonight the circle is complete. After the ceremony, we sat together in silence, holding hands. She said, James, I'm not afraid of growing older anymore. I used to fear being alone, but now, even if I have only a few years left, they will be filled with love. I kissed her hand and said, Clara, love is not measured in years. It is measured in moments, and every moment with you is eternity. Our days after the wedding became the happiest of my life. We laughed like children. We teased each other. She would often say, James, we are acting younger than our age. I would laugh and reply, Love keeps us young. Clara, she would shake her head and smile, but I knew she believed it too. One evening, she asked, James, do you regret that we lost so many years? I thought for a moment and said, No, Clara, because even though we lost years, we never lost love. It lived inside us, waiting for this moment. She cried and hugged me tightly. You always know how to heal me, James. We shared stories with each other, the ones we never told anyone. She told me about the pain of her husband's death. I told her about Julia, about how she gave me a family when I thought my life was empty. Clara listened and said, James, I am thankful she cared for you when I couldn't be here. She gave you the strength to reach this moment. I whispered back, and I am thankful you came back to finish what we once started. As days passed, we found peace in the simplest things. A walk together, a meal shared, a quiet evening where we just held hands. Clara often said, I feel safe, James. Truly safe, I answered. That's all I ever want to keep you safe. Sometimes at night when she fell asleep beside me, I watched her face and thought, James, you are the luckiest man alive. You got a second chance at love. Few people in this world get such a gift. One afternoon, Clara looked at me with tears in her eyes. She said, James, do you realize what we proved? I asked softly, what, Clara? She whispered, that true love never dies. It waits. It carries itself through years, through pain, through distance, and then finds its way back. My heart swelled as I replied, yes, Clara, and we are living proof of it. Our love became a message not only to us, but to anyone who knew us. People looked at us and said, look at them. Love has no age. And they were right. Love is not about young faces or smooth hands. Love is about the soul. And our souls had never aged. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I no longer feel lonely. I look at Clara beside me and I whisper, thank you, God. Thank you for giving me back what I thought was lost. She opens her eyes, smiles, and says, good morning, James. And that is all I need to feel alive. We may be old. We may have lived through loss and pain, but we found our way back. And that is the miracle of love. I can say with peace now, this is the best part of my life. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel English for a Day.